At the age of 50, many men begin to feel a quiet shift within. The noise of past relationships, the responsibilities once carried with pride, and the constant push to meet expectations start to fade. In their place comes a silence, not empty, but calm. A man walks alone through a park in the early morning. The air is crisp. The streets are quiet. He's not lonely. He's reflective. He's not avoiding love. He's searching for something deeper. Perhaps peace, perhaps freedom, perhaps himself. For some, solitude becomes more than just a moment of pause. It becomes a choice, a lifestyle, a way to return to who they were before the world told them who to be. In this video, we explore 10 powerful reasons why men over 50 often feel better living alone than being in a relationship. These are not just surface-level ideas. They come from real experiences, real turning points, and real lives. And reason number 10 might just make you see your own path in a very different light. Stay with us. It's time to talk about what freedom truly feels like. By the time a man reaches 50, life around him begins to look very different. The house that was once full of noise and routine slowly grows quiet. Children grow up, move out, and start their own lives. The silence they leave behind is often called the empty nest. But for many men, it's more than that. It's a moment of stillness that invites reflection. In this phase of life, divorce is not uncommon. In fact, many men go through the process of ending long-term relationships in their 40s or 50s. This shift, though painful at times, often becomes a doorway to rediscovery. The body also begins to send signals. Sleep becomes lighter. Energy doesn't come as easily. There's a deeper awareness of health, of time, of what truly matters. Loud environments, constant social demande, and emotional friction no longer feel worth the effort. Simplicity starts to feel more valuable than excitement. Perhaps most of all, the race slows down. The pressure to build, to achieve, to compete, it no longer carries the same weight. For many men, the second half of life becomes less about proving something and more about protecting peace. According to data from Pew Research, nearly 29% of men over 50 in the United States are single and have no intention of remarrying. This number doesn't just reflect a trend, it reflects a mindset, one that's choosing peace over pressure, solitude over conflict, and clarity over chaos. These changes don't happen overnight, but they form the emotional landscape where the decision to live alone starts to make sense. At this stage of life, many men find comfort in the simple freedom of not having to explain themselves. There's no need to negotiate feelings, no need to adjust schedules around someone else's needs. From the way they spend their mornings to the way they decorate their homes, everything reflects their own preferences, whether it's waking up at 5 to read in silence or staying up late watching old westerns. There's no one to interrupt or question the flow. That kind of freedom is rare and deeply valued. For some, past relationships left emotional scars. Divorce, heartbreak, betrayal, these are not just words, but chapters that change them. Choosing to live alone isn't about bitterness. It's about protecting peace. When you've been through emotional storms, the absence of chaos becomes a form of healing. There's no desire to re-enter situations that might reawaken pain. This is a season of rediscovery. Health becomes a priority. Personal goals regain meaning. Hobbies that were once put aside are now revisited. There's more time for reading, walking, learning, or even starting a passion project that had been shelved for decades. For many, it feels like the first time they're truly living for themselves, not as someone's husband, not as someone's provider, but simply as a man exploring his own path. By 50, many men begin to see through the surface of relationships. There is often a fear that new connections might be based more on convenience than real care. The idea of navigating a relationship built on unspoken expectations or mutual gain rather than genuine affection can feel draining. They prefer honesty, and sometimes solitude offers the most honest space of all. The pressure to succeed, to impress, to live up to someone else's idea of what a man should be, it fades. By now, they've earned their stripes. They've built careers, raised children, or survived hardships. The need to chase approval, whether from society or from a partner, simply no longer applies. In that space, a different kind of confidence begins to grow, one rooted in self-acceptance. Big social gatherings lose their appeal. Instead, a quiet dinner with two lifelong friends, a morning coffee at the same cafe, or an afternoon spent fishing in silence brings more meaning than crowded parties ever did. There's no pressure to constantly network or connect through a partner's circle. The people in their life are there by choice, not by circumstance. Living alone often means simpler expenses and clearer priorities. They don't feel the need to spend on joint vacations, shared homes, or gifts to maintain emotional balance. Their financial resources stay their own, and with that comes a sense of control. For those who've experienced financial strain in past relationships, being able to make choices without second-guessing brings relief and stability. There's something powerful about going to bed in peace and waking up in silence. No arguments, no disrupted routines, just quiet evenings and slow mornings. At this stage in life, quality sleep is no longer taken for granted. It's essential, and living alone often means building a sleep environment that works perfectly for them, undisturbed, predictable, and fully theirs. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means fewer emotional battles. No need to explain moods. No risk of misunderstandings turning into arguments. The absence of constant emotional negotiation leads to more stability. Their days are no longer spent trying to manage tension. They're spent enjoying simple routines in calm environments. It's not isolation, it's clarity. Perhaps the most powerful reason of all. At some point, many men realize that love isn't just something to be given or received from others. It's something to be built within. Living alone gives them the time, space, and permission to truly see themselves, to forgive, to accept, to grow, and in doing so, they begin to feel full. Not because someone else completes them, but because they've learned how to complete themselves. It's important to be clear. This message is not about turning away from relationships or rejecting connection. It's not a declaration that solitude is superior, or that love no longer has value. Rather, it's an honest look at a choice that, for some men, simply fits better at this stage in life. Living alone is not a statement against partnership. It's a quiet decision based on personal truth. For some, that truth is peace. For others, it's freedom. And for a few, it's finally feeling whole without needing someone else to complete the picture. What matters most is not whether someone is single or partnered, but whether they feel at ease in their own skin. A man who is alone and content may carry far more calm and joy than one who remains in a relationship that drains him day after day. Solitude, when chosen freely, can be powerful. It's not about running from love. It's about moving closer to self-understanding. And in that space, some men find exactly what they've been searching for all along. If you found pieces of yourself in these 10 reasons, it might be time to redefine what happiness truly means to you. Not the version of happiness the world once expected, not the checklist built by others, but something quieter, more honest, more personal. This stage of life isn't an ending, it's a turning point, a moment to step into your own rhythm without permission, without explanation. Each day becomes a blank page, and you are finally free to write without editing for someone else's approval. Try living one day at a time, not for expectations, not for appearances, but for the simple truth that you deserve to feel peace. You deserve to wake up without pressure and move through life with clarity. If solitude brings you closer to that feeling, then perhaps it's not about being alone at all. Perhaps it's about finally being with yourself. So in the end, being single at 50 isn't about giving up. It's not a sign of failure or isolation. It's a form of maturity, a quiet, confident decision to choose peace over pressure. It's understanding that happiness doesn't always come from being with someone, but often from reconnecting with who you are when no one else is watching. You've walked through life long enough to know what costs your energy and what restores it. And now, maybe more than ever, you have the right to choose the kind of life that brings you calm, clarity, and control. What about you? Is being alone the space where you're finally starting to rediscover yourself? If this message speaks to your own journey, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us your story. Someone out there might need to hear it. And if you're interested in more content about psychology, midlife transitions, and personal growth, subscribe to the channel. This is just the beginning of a deeper conversation about what it means to truly live on your own terms. A man once said, "I spent 30 years being a husband, a father, a provider. Now, all I want is to learn how to be myself." He wasn't speaking out of regret. He wasn't rejecting his past. He was honoring it, while finally choosing to turn inward. After decades of carrying roles and responsibilities, he was ready for something quieter, something more honest, something that belonged only to him. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most courageous journey of all. Not building for others, but learning how to live with yourself, as yourself, on your own terms. It's not about walking away from life. It's about walking back to who you were before the world asked you to be everything else.